perfect. Oh, I love that. I love getting consistent double kills when they line up. So perfect.
Alrighty boys, welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to be talking about the TR-7. Now if you guys have played Battlefield 4, Battlefield 3, this gun reminds me the most of the Bulldog. It actually is extremely hard hitting. It does 33 damage per shot. It's actually like 33.5 if I'm not mistaken, because a lot of the times what will end up happening is you will shoot 3 bullets at somebody and they'll die, which means that it's like 33.5. It has like some kind of decimal thing that it's not showing when you actually look at it on the weapon screen, so you have to just try it yourself. But the big thing that I noticed is that as long as you were hitting them in the close range, you were going to be able to kill them in 3 bullets, which is really important to note, because that means this gun is extremely powerful in that close quarters. And we're not even taking into consideration headshots. When you get headshots, you also do more damage as well. Typically, though, when you get a headshot, though, it's still going to be mostly a 3-shot kill when you do get headshots. However, when you're on the mid to long range and you get headshots, you're probably going to be able to 3-shot from long range to mid range as well. Now, the one thing I do want to quickly mention, though, is that if you body shot in the mid to long range, your bullets are going to tend to do around 25 damage, which makes it go back to like the other assault rifles where it's going to be mostly a 4 to 5 shot kill usually. Which, the reason why I want to mention that is because if you take that into consideration and then compare it to some of the other assault rifles that are already doing like 25 damage but at a higher fire rate, then all of a sudden when you're taking those close quarters or mid-range gunfights, you're not going to be able to take full advantage of the gun unless you are either hitting 33 bullets per, or 33 damage per bullet, or if you're on the mid-range and then you're fighting like an M4 or something, if you're doing 25 damage per shot, you're probably going to be losing that gunfight because the M4 obviously is going to have the faster fire rate. However, if you are a very skilled gamer and you can hit those headshots on the mid-range, you're going to definitely outperform the M4 and those type of weapons, because your gun simply is going to kill a lot faster than their gun, basically, is the idea. Now, the other thing that I wanted to mention about this gun, and I think DICE is probably going to be working on this, is that the bloom on this gun is absolutely insane. And what I mean by bloom is the overall recoil is just like, it's really strong. It kind of reminds me of like I want to say like a mixture between like Apex Legends recoil and then Rainbow Six Siege recoil. Like, it has a lot of like first bullet recoil, and then the bloom is very like left-righty, like Apex Legends, if that makes sense. Now, when I was using the weapon, I was using a lot of like things that would help with like the recoil and whatnot, but I couldn't really find a good way of like minimizing the recoil on the gun, besides just like adding more like bullets into your magazine. Like, I believe the bullets go all the way up to 25 to 30, I believe, which means that as you level up the weapon, if you can get it up to that 25-30, then you can have more mistakes during gunfights, especially on the mid to long range, and then more likely potentially kill whatever enemy player that you're going for. So that's what I would recommend if you do want to use the gun right now, right at this second. But like I said, I've been hearing a lot of different sources say that DICE has heard there's been a lot of issues with like the bloom, and like the bloom is basically like the weird like left-right of the gun. Basically, it's like the weird like spread that a weapon has when you're shooting it. And I don't know if they're going to completely remove bloom and then add like a whole separate like recoil system, or if they're just going to mitigate some of the bloom and keep it the same. But I know for sure they're probably going to adjust it. So what's going to end up happening is that in the future, I imagine this gun is going to get some kind of buff because of those bloom changes. So that's when I personally would start using it more often, because I think this could be a very strong competitor to the M4 carbine, as well as a lot of the other assault rifles or SMGs, because right now it is, from my knowledge, the only assault rifle that can do a 3-shot body shot kill, basically from the close range. But as of right now, when it comes to like the mid to long range, you have to be like extremely accurate to be able to get the kills in the 3-shot range. Like I said, during the close range gunfights, usually you're going to get the 3-shot kill, but it's during those mid to long range gunfights that you're going to either have to hit a headshot or you're gonna have to be in like a really nice like sweet spot. I don't know the exact distance, but you're gonna have to find a sweet spot where you're gonna be able to essentially basically body shot people and still get the 3-shot kill. I don't know the exact distance, but I do know that after a certain distance, the bullet's damage drops off from 33 to 25, so that means you have to get a headshot on those mid-range gunfights. However, the one other thing that I noticed is that sometimes when you get these nice little choke points that, like in this clip right here that I'm showing, I have this nice little choke point for enemies coming out of Echo, and I'm able to just quickly knock them down like left, right, and center because of the damage output that this gun does have. And the other thing that I noticed with this game is that when you are standing still, typically your recoil is typically a little bit better. So I have noticed, and I imagine that there is like one of the attachments where if you are standing still, your recoil is going to be like a laser beam. However, I'm the type of player, and I know a lot of other players are also like this, where I like to do like a little shuffle step, if that makes sense, when I'm taking gunfights. If you ever played like Valorant, it's kind of like the like tap strafing, I believe is what it's called, where you like kind of like tap to your left, tap to your right when you're taking gunfights. I wasn't very good at Valorant, so that's probably not completely accurate of what I'm saying, but typically I will move like left to right when I'm taking gunfights, so I'm never actually standing completely still. So typically I'll run the attachments like the stubby grip to basically get a little bit less recoil on my gun, and then I'm usually just gonna adjust to the recoil as I keep playing and get used to it. Like I said, it kind of feels like a Rainbow Six Siege gun where it has like a lot of first bullet recoil, but it's not really a good way of removing that recoil from what I can tell. The best thing that I could do to basically mitigate the recoil was either standing still or going prone, was the two ways that I noticed where the recoil felt like very like laser beamy. And then the other way that I feel like could help, but it wouldn't completely get rid of the issue, was tap firing. Like pretty much every gunfight, like close range, mid range, long range, just tap fire, and then the bloom tends to go away. And it isn't as strong when you are doing that tap fire, which is typically pretty standard when it comes to most of the guns in this game. If you tap fire, you're going to have a lot less recoil when you are burst firing the gun. That was like the major problem that I had, was the bloom. But like I said, there's a really high chance that DICE is going to do something about the bloom, because a lot of the weapons in this game, like I believe the sniper has a bloom problem right now, where like if you're standing completely still with the sniper, you have this weird chance of your bullets not hitting completely center, which is really weird. And then there was also the problem with the throwing knives, if I'm not mistaken. There was like this problem where like even if you're standing completely still and you toss a throwing knife at a wall, you're going to have the chance of having the throwing knife go slightly off to the right, slightly off to the left, you know what I mean? And that's the same problem that's happening with the assault rifles right now too. So I imagine the system is going to be the same for every weapon and gadget in this game when it comes to the bloom. So in my opinion, and what I assume is going to happen in the future, is that the DICE is going to work on the bloom and adjust it, and then all of a sudden the gun that we're talking about right now, the TR-7, is going to feel a lot more stronger. Now, I do remember back in Battlefield 4 days that the Bulldog actually did have a lot of recoil back then as well. However, it is going to stand as like being one of those guns that is like very, very, very powerful if you can hit your shots. You know what I mean? So it's going to be one of those guns where it's like if you can hit your shots in those mid to long range gunfights, you're going to absolutely delete people. But it's a different type of delete than like you would with like an SMG or the M4 carbine. Like you're going to basically be destroying them based off of your damage output, like of your bullet output, basically. Not like you just like spraying at somebody with a fast fire rate weapon and then getting like potential extra headshots and stuff like that. It's like more like the bullets just simply do more damage than other guns. So when you hit your shots, you're basically just deleting them just like that. I imagine this gun's going to be like one of those more like skillful guns, I imagine. But like I said, we won't really know until DICE adjusts the bloom a little bit, because it could turn out like all of the other weapons after they either buff or nerf the bloom on some of the weapons. So what's going to end up happening is it's either going to get really, really strong, or it's going to take a lot of skill to use. and you're going to have to be extremely accurate during your gunfights. Now, the other thing that I was noticing is that when you start out, you have 21 bullets. You have the option of also lowering your magazine size to basically get like more like faster reload, stuff like that. But honestly, I never really bothered doing that because when you sit around like the 20 bullet range, you typically can only kill like 1 to 2 people at a time. So what I'd recommend is that if you want to be able to kill full squads, I would recommend going up to that 25 mag size or that 30 mag size, because then you're going to be able to take on more people more consistently. Like, I noticed my absolute limit was getting like at least 2 kills in one burst when I was starting out with the weapon. And then the other problem was if there was a third person, a lot of the times I just wouldn't be able to get them. And if we're talking about like mid-range and stuff like that, what's going to end up happening is that if you're burning most of your mag on the mid-range, if a second guy all of a sudden showed up, you're not going to be able to easily flick over to them and get that kill as well if you do use most of your bullets on one person. So that's when I would recommend to break out the mag size and make it a little bit bigger. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, work on that mag size. That's like the best thing I can offer you right now. It is extremely powerful as a weapon. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.
So perfect.